Before their demolition in early 2014, the Brewster Douglas housing projects existed as a symbol of blight and crime. Their empty, rubble-filled apartments and broken windows stood sentinel for 6 years over downtown Detroit's north side and the thousands of daily commuters that passed by them along Interstate 75. Despite their ominous association, the Brewsters, as they are called locally, prospered for a number of years and housed thousands of working-class Detroiters before their eventual abandonment. Their decline and dereliction was in many ways a direct result of the many economic, social, and racial adversities that plagued Detroit over the past several decades. The construction of the Brewster Douglas projects took place in multiple phases over a number of years. The project was funded by federal subsidies and was part of a massive urban revitalization initiative that constituted the movement and concentration of working-class black families into a mixture of homes, townhouses, and apartment buildings in Detroit's Lower East Side. The construction of the projects met protests from the black community who resisted being moved around at the city's whim, but, as with most of the rest of the country in the 1930s, African American citizens did not have much of a voice when it came to public matters and were largely ignored. Upon completion, the projects drew tenants mostly from the historically African American neighborhood Paradise Valley in Detroit's Near East Side. This neighborhood, a cultural mecca for jazz and blues in Detroit, went on to be demolished in the 1960s to make way for the construction of Interstate 75 and Lafayette Park. On September 9, 1935, First Lady Eleanor Roosevelt was in Detroit to kick off the demolition of the Paradise Valley neighborhood, citing a 95% tax delinquency and a crime rate that was 6 times above the city average as justification for its removal. The Brewster homes were the first structures to be built as part of the Brewster projects and were opened in 1938 with 701 units. They were built on the property that was once Paradise Valley. By the time construction was completed in 1941, the residential blocks bordering Boobin, Hastings, Wilkins Streets, and Mack Avenue consisted of 943 individual housing units. In 1942, construction continued as 2 6-story apartment buildings were built. 9 years later, the original Brewster homes were demolished and replaced with a series of row houses that increased the project's capacity and density. Also at this time, the 6 14-story apartment buildings that have since become iconic of the failed housing project were also added to the property. At the peak of the Brewster Douglas project's tenancy, they were home to anywhere between 8,000 and 10,000 Detroiters.